coffee with MBA and beyond, everyone. Let the Hunger Games begin, like Shantanu says, and may the odds be ever in your favor, forever in your favor. I think that's how they say it in the Hunger Games. But we're waiting for a few more people to join. Meanwhile, I would love to know where are we all joining from. I do see people from different parts of the world joining in here today with us. So if you want, you can drop the names of the countries you're from and help us understand which of the three schools are you applying to, HEC, LBS, ESA, in the order of application or priority for yourself. So it'll help me decide which questions for the essays are we going to be picking up first this evening. So we'll be waiting. You can drop it in the group chat over there. Yes, help us understand where you're joining from and the schools that you're targeting of the list that we have today. HEC, LBS, and ESA. Okay, I don't see anything coming in yet. All three, Prathamesh. Okay, got it. Everyone else. At least 5 responses. Okay, let's start with 5. So it'll help us get a direction. Where do we start the session? Gosh, from Bangalore with love, targeting LBS, HEC, ESA, Shrishti. French student, targeting LBS, MIM. All right, this is going to be focused on MBA, but hopefully you'll be able to take some learnings with respect to what the schools expect. So you should be able to apply some learnings in MIM applications as well. LBS, HEC. I think we should start with LBS, Shantanu. All right, Shantanu, do you want to quickly do an introductory something? So we'll start immediately after.
Yeah, first of all, it will be helpful for MIM as well because the approach, the designing of your narrative is sort of similar. The nuances that you need is sort of similar. All right. Hey guys, good to see you all. There are a few familiar, I would say, thumbnails over here. Right. Good to see you all again here. And yeah, I could see LBS, like people applying in LBS. So all three, LBS, HEC, ESA, LBS, Oxford, Cambridge, LBS, HEC, Site Business School. Right.
Yeah, competition, Hunger Games for LBS. I think we can kick off with the LBS uniqueness questions from Shantanu. What makes you unique? Because we have 3 essays to cover right now, 3 schools. So
Yeah.
you can quickly.
So we only have one from LBS that is unique.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Oh.
What makes you unique? Because I think that's the trickier one.
Yeah, indeed. That's the tricky one. And LBS, I guess, introduced it only last intake.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't also have many samples around it. First of all, wonderful essay. And guys, people in general ask how many essays are there in LBS, and we say that there are 2, right? But the moment you open up application, there are 11, yeah, 2 of them could be optional for you, right? But you got to answer 9, then it's a long application. And LBS, instead of reducing essays, increased 1 and added uniqueness. And by the way, they have also I think it was last intake or last to last, they reduced to the letter of recommendation from 2 to 1. That is one thing that they have done for the applicants, and I hope other business schools pretty soon follow that. Right, uniqueness essay. It's very, very interesting because we generally would put in a lot of effort in the goals essay, right? You would really want to talk a lot about, I need to give context before I talk about my goals, or if I'm talking about my goals up front, then I really need to back them up with what I've done now. So a lot of professional stuff goes over there, right? So now, and then you have an ECSA, right? Then you also got a professional essay where they're going to talk about your primary responsibilities, right? You also have a separate essay that they're going to talk about international exposure, right? So what do I talk in uniqueness essay? That is the question, right? I'd be more than happy. I mean, if you guys want to put up over here, a message, what do you think? I mean, so many questions, first of all, being asked, right? How do I answer this particular one? Any thoughts, guys? It would be helpful for me as well, in order to explain.
Yeah, maybe we can all take a minute, think about it. What do you think should go in the uniqueness essay?
Yeah. Let's take 60 seconds.
Yeah, one-liners, anything.
One-liners would be more than sufficient.
Or one words.
And this actually, meanwhile, I'm going to talk a little more around this, that our applicants. So we generally explore applicants from the perspective of professional and personal life both. And someone is going to talk about that I'm unique in my professional life. Someone going to talk about my professional life is kind of, I think it's fine, but I think I'm unique also in my personal life, right? And then there are a few people who would say that the way I've contributed, so I'm not talking about the professional life. I'm not talking about my interest and hobbies, right? But I'm talking about the way I've contributed until now to the community. That is pretty unique, right? And like I said, you already have ECSA and bunch of other stuff over there. So I could see the answers flowing in. If we apply around, okay, to be authentic and be real, right? For sure. What we think makes us stand out. Indeed. Position of a widely thought of negative point as a positive and how it helped contribute positively. Oh, that's a good thought.
Yeah,
That's a good thought, right? All right. So I'm going to throw a couple of examples. One of them, I had an applicant, brilliant in sports, brilliant, has played tennis at national level, has won awards. And then also equally brilliant in professional life, where she has worked as chief of staff. I'm not going to name the company. And then she's working as a consultant, right? And my idea was I really wanted a space where I could talk about I can blend these two things together. And I didn't have that space at LBS, right? At INSEAD I do, but not at LBS. I don't have it. Because the goal, let's say, it's professional stuff, ECSA, entirely easy. Pratmesh says, who am I beyond my resume goals? Absolutely. Absolutely, Pratmesh. And wait, let me just open that up. Right. So what we did was we blended the interest, which is sports, and we blended the professional life together. We fused them together. And by the way, you only have 200 words, guys. Right. So in 200 words, you also got to talk about these two things. Your uniqueness, right? You got to explain how are you unique, and then you also need to throw examples, right? So here, I mean, again, I hope I've been following, something from the last 3 sessions. I'm not going to read out the entire essay, right? But I'm going to read a few lines just to help you guys understand what I'm trying to say. This applicant goes like missing birthdays, balancing academics, stretches without visible progress made me wanted to quit. Sports that I loved. Right. But there was an advice that we have put over here, and then we're going like these words became my anchor. And then go about and saying that I learned to assert myself on courts where street smart opponents and a lack of referees demanded credit. But eventually I won medals across state and regional championships. And then we say that these experiences actually reveal who I am, I got this attitude of never giving up. And then we throw a professional example where we showcase how not giving up eventually helped applicant moved a success metric. We've thrown a quantifiable result over here. We said that helping me secure 0.5 million plus engagement for my company. And then the way we ended it was, the way I'm unique is that my ability to transform discomfort into growth, whether on a field or in a boardroom, is what makes me unique. You know, I don't shy away from challenges. I lean into them, persist, and emerge stronger. That's it.
All right, Shantanu. So what we
There was this another applicant where under uniqueness, a pretty unique profile, where did BCom in economics, I guess, and then became CA, worked at Deloitte, and then realized that no, I don't want to do this anymore, and became a product manager in a tech company. So what was unique over here, the way we ended, I remember the way we ended the essay was that I'm a person who can speak the language of a CFO, CPO, and customers alike. Because as a product manager, you also need to understand customer, right? You are the voice of customer, and we've mentioned that somewhere. So my uniqueness comes from that I can actually speak the language of CPO, CFO, and customers alike. Another one, okay? Yeah, Paridi, over to you.
Sorry. So what we gather, and I've listed them here, is contribution is one of the ways. And the second example that you gave, it really resonates with one of the answers that was given by a candidate position, a widely thought of negative point as a positive and how it helped, which also resonates with the example that you just shared, blending professional life and interest, and then talking about, of course, tying it into contribution. We can, of course, point it out further, like how to showcase discomfort of certain thing into changing that as your into changing it into your strength. So how going from a weakness, something that was your weakness earlier becomes your strength, can be a weakness or can be a unique selling point. And the last one is diversity across functions. Do you recommend that there has to be a since it's a Bschool application, there has to be a professional aspect, definitely in this essay, or it's okay, or you've seen candidates skipping the professional aspect as well?
Right. So that's a good question. I mean, deal is that the first example that I shared had both professional and personal mix, right? The second example that I shared was only professional, right? So honestly, when I'm working with applicant, I don't have a preset notion in my mind that I only have to go in this particular direction. I think it's all about identifying the uniqueness. And I've had applicants in past, but then Elvis did not have this essay. Yeah, I have multiple applicants in my mind where if I had to write their uniqueness essay, it might be complete. There would be no professional stuff in there.
Okay, so yeah, that's what I wanted to know, because sometimes I've read some of your essays where, and I mean, to be honest, as a reader, I absolutely appreciate you, but I'm not an adcom, an essay which talks about the personal angle, because there's professional stuff, everything is, being covered already in the goals essay, and then your resume and a bunch of essays that all the schools normally have. So I think this is a good space for you to talk about your personal characteristics, traits, which of course support everything that you're saying in the other essays as well. Anything else you want to add? And meanwhile, if anybody has any questions around how should you think about your uniqueness, feel free to ask your questions so we can, answer those and then move on to the next essay.
Meanwhile, I'm going to answer. There's a question: if we apply in our round 3 with a non-target schools, but a good GMAT, I don't I don't know what you mean by non-target schools. I hope what you're saying
I
is
think we can
ambitious
say that
schools.
we can take that one up towards the end, Shantanu. Maybe we can stick to the essays for now. If
Sure.
we,
Meanwhile, we are waiting for the questions.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question here by
So yeah,
Pratap.
I'll just end that. Yeah, you can apply. For sure, you can apply. It's perfectly fine. Even if you're looking to apply an ambitious and if you have um, good GMAT, you can apply.
Yeah, okay. Prathamesh has a question. How do you build coherence between goals and uniqueness by keeping it candid and focused?
Honestly, if I could box it, confine it into an answer, I can code it and make it a product. Yeah, that's the easiest answer I have, Prathamesh. Yeah, there's literally no formula. Had there been, yeah, it would just be in product, you know. And this is exactly where I think every applicant is so unique, that the connecting dots from the goal essay, the uniqueness essay, or I would say any other essay, is so different from people to people. Um, there's no formula. There's a recipe for sure, but there's no formula which I can say that you do like this.
All right. Thanks, Shantanu. Then we've got Prasoon asking, does the unique characteristic have to show impact in the essay?
Impact is always welcomed, Prasoon. Also, an adjective by itself is meaningless. An adjective with a supporting evidence instills confidence. Yeah, I hope I have answered that.
Yeah. So whatever we are talking about, and this is, we repeat that time and again in all our workshops, whenever you're talking about a certain value, a certain characteristic, or a certain trait of yours, you need to bring in personal and professional examples both. Without that, it's just going to hang around there without any meaning. So that, and then we have last question, which is around Stanford essays. What matters to you most and why? One of the best questions. We won't tackle this right now. I'll share our YouTube link over here. You guys can go and listen to it because we did talk about it at length in one of the sessions in the, I think 3-4 weeks back. So I'll drop it over here. All right, let's move on to the next one, HEC. And this is also a very interesting one, a really interesting question. This is essay 4. Imagine a life entirely different from the one you now lead. What would it be?
Right. Again, very interesting question and very unique to HC. I think Cambridge also used to have a similar question earlier, which was if you have to give an advice to 18-year-old self of yours, what it would be, you know. Um, and then we used to tackle these two questions together. Actually, that we would write in a way that it would answer both. Um, but now HEC, so yeah, HEC only has it as of now, right? It's a very interesting question, and the trick over here is you first of all gotta stay coherent to your story, right? And the way we go about this is that whatever skill sets I'm talking about that in general you have, we showcase that whatever alternate life you're gonna lead, you're gonna leverage the same skill sets and how the same skill set is useful over there. And then um, if you think that the activity that you're putting in that you are picking in the alternate life, that also matters in a way that I don't think that it should be that I'm a consultant but I would like to be an F1 driver, right? um, but let's say if you are working in Mercedes, we also have applicants who are working, in the automobile sector, and they have been very close to, let's say, racing over there. The F1 driver would work, you know. Um, an interesting thing that I remember one of the applicants last year, 690 GMAT, also had 52%, you know, um, it was a tricky profile to handle. What we wrote over there was that the applicant, when the applicant was young, actually this guy was also into sports. First of all, I just realized this guy was also into sports and was into running, I guess, running or cycling. Um, but he had an injury in his ankle, and I don't remember what exactly the condition is called, but he didn't have, but his ankle was removed. I think when he turned 18 or 19. So, so what he says is that until that point in my life, I was really following sports, you know, and when this particular thing happened to me, I had to withdraw from the sports. But in alternate life, I would like to be a sports commentator. I would love to follow it from there, you know. And this guy was from, his background was from, he's from PE, and then we mapped how the skill sets that he uses in his work would be helpful in him being a commentator, sports commentator.
Well, thanks, Shantanu.
That's
I
the
think
big.
there's a very relevant question Prathamesh is asking, and definitely the connections that you've drawn right now are pretty wild. But he's asking, will the answer to this question be something which I wished to become as a kid and I couldn't, or is it an imaginary pivot of, I
What if?
mean,
Yeah.
what?
So I would say, Pratmesh, if I mean, steer away from completely imaginary pivot of, because then it looks you're building castle out of just air, right? But if you have some foundation, right, and then you eventually they're asking you to build castle, right? They're asking you to go and think and go beyond what you're doing now. But I guess what's more important is the foundation of what you're gonna say. If the foundation is completely imaginary, then you can literally say anything, right? Um, but this is where we at the foundation level, at the foundation layer, we would like to be, this is who this person is, we establish that, and this is coherent with the rest of the story, and then we build further upon it.
Yeah. So Shantanu, what's the wildest answer you remember that has gotten an admit for HEC for you in this question? Is it the sports commentator one?
The sports commentator was also good. I have a few over here in my document. What did this person write? Yeah, solo adventure blogger.
Okay. And what
I also got to remember others. Wait, let me think. I will recall much. Not able to
so
recall.
what is this guy doing right now? The solo adventure or girl?
So this applicant has a very interesting profile where the applicant um, is into HR, where and the applicant's company helps scout for CXOs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Hmm.
And while scouting, she travels.
Okay, she travels and
Yeah, while scouting.
interesting.
And
Okay.
then her job is, let's say, if there's a merger happening between two companies somewhere, right? And obviously, it's not just going to be where she's located. So she would
Hmm.
go there, and scout for CXOs. If there's a merger happening, then there's already a fight, which is, let's say, two companies are merging. Now both the companies have a CMO, you know. Now who's going to be the bigger CMO, right? So that's what the job is, but she keeps on traveling.
Interesting. So it's definitely not completely unrelated.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to. From what I'm gathering, Prathamesh, it has to show a hint of it in what you're doing right now, maybe a little bit, just to because that's something that you don't really aspire to do, but you enjoy it.
Right.
While of course pursuing a career in the capitalistic world. Just joking around that. Yeah. Okay.
The most interesting one actually is something that I am doing at the moment, which I don't want to share, but probably would be able to share after 2 months.
Sure. No worries. So Shruti is asking something. All these anecdotes are interesting and unique. Yes. Is the AdCom looking for such things? Does it set the profile apart? I mean, these candidates have gotten an admit. So Shruti, I mean, that should answer your first question, I believe. But does it set the profile apart? And I mean, Shantanu, over to you to answer this question.
Yeah, it does. I mean, try to see. Just try. Let's now see it from the perspective of an AdCom, right? An AdCom is going to read so many applications, right, guys? And there's always a pattern which generally people follow. That most of you would just be completely aligned, would just completely write about professional stuff. So AdCom is just reading professional stuff in and out. Now I've read 20 applications where it's just professional everywhere, right? I read 21st and I see this. It's interesting to me. It'll catch my attention, right? Um, it's similar to the way you use ChatGPT now. To each one of you, it looks, when it talks about empathetic leader, inclusivity, fostering collaboration, and blah blah blah, all the words that it uses, right? So individually to you, it would look wonderful, but when AdCom reads it, and read that there is a pattern right throughout, um it's that, even when you are just writing by yourself, you guys are not aware of what is a different application, right? So such things, and they're giving you space. First of all, they're asking you, tell me what would you be in your alternate life. They're giving you that space, so it needs to be interesting. If you're boring over there, then
Yep, absolutely. So, I mean, schools these days, I'm not sure, like it has become a thing. They do give you an essay question which does not revolve around your professional life, and they deliberately do that, of course, to break their own monotony or whatnot. I feel they just want to read about interesting people. And sometimes when you really just stick to your professional life, it can become a little boring. I mean, unless, not everybody is doing passionately something with for a purpose that they'd imagined that they would be doing. If it was like that, and of course, perfect story, perfect narrative to be told. But I know not all of us are living that life. We're all trying to fit in, purpose somewhere, passion somewhere, and paychecks are somewhere else, and then we're trying to put it all together to make sense of it, and that's the sense that you have to make for the business schools. So you should definitely have spaces for all these things, for passion, purpose, and capital, but you should definitely try to make sense that they are all connected when you're telling a story to the business school. So be
and
very
another
careful
thing,
when you,
another thing.
yeah.
Sorry, I thought you're done. Let me know when you're
Yeah,
done.
no, just wrapping up that. So be very careful, not just sticking to your professional life. And even if you're talking about your imaginary alternate life or personal life, do not leave it hanging without having any connection with your professional life as well. That's the key takeaway always we take. Yeah, Shantanu, over to you. After that, we will move on to Prathamesh's question.
As far as the interesting things are concerned, like one of my batchmates was an Iron Man, right? Was not that good in studies, but an Iron Man who liked it, who actually has held leadership roles, right? Another so I go into these alumni dinners, and I found a guy and I asked him, what's your story? The only thing he told me was, I've motorbiked 20,000 kilometers in 14 countries. It is huge, you know, and yeah, if you divide, it's like more than 1,000 kilometers in a country, like 1,500 kilometers in a single country. That's huge, so and that's what they tell. They don't say, these guys don't say, I work at Deloitte or I work at BCG and I have very good experience across auto, retail, and D2C brands. I have also been in a room full of VPs and CXOs, and I have actually helped increase the profit of that company. No, they don't say that at all. These are different people. They would say, and this guy would say, I'm an Iron Man. I did 90 kilometers of running and 50 kilometers of cycling and like probably 2 kilometers of swimming back to back. Right. And whatever I do, I have leadership experience. I lead a team of 8 people. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's different.
Thanks, Shantanu. So I think one homework we can all do at the end of the session. Of course, we're going to do one more essay, and we've got a couple of questions right now waiting for us to answer. If you to give one sentence about yourself, and feel free to use this space in the next 25-30 minutes if you want to. Otherwise, you can send it to me and Shantanu later as well. We'd love to read it. Just one sentence about you that you want to be remembered by, or that you feel that I want to say this is going to be my standout thing. Whether don't think about applications, just think for yourself. What is that interesting thing you will wrap up in a sentence and you would want people to be remembering you by? So just a homework over there for all of you to do. And now we are moving on to Prathamesh's question again. All these narratives are interesting, but how do you make sure you do not end up building a Frankenstein creature of various snippets of someone else's journey, instead sticking to your own narrative, which is completely authentic and appealing?
Prathamesh, you have thought a lot. If our question that you're asking, it just completely showcases you have thought a lot. Would you mind to unmute yourself and give this question a little more flavor? I would love to answer this. Give it a little more flavor. Can he unmute himself?
Yeah, he's
Yeah, he can.
Hello, hi. Sorry, I'm not able to turn on my camera. There's some issue.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, wow.
Ask the question again. Yeah, and add more to it. I know, you have it's, when you write, it's limited.
Yeah, so basically the question is throughout my journey since I've been preparing for GMAT and doing the applications and doing my narrative building, you come across a lot of stories, right? Okay, this guy did sports achievements, and the other guy maybe put across a family personal story, right? So interesting. So you tend to relate that, what, I have similar stories. Why don't I also pick and place those stories, right? So what really happens is you actually try to mimic someone else's journey instead of focusing on what's really more relevant and important to you, right? How do you make sure that you're focusing on your own unique aspect, on your own authentic narrative, instead of just again building a Frankenstein creature for you? So how do you do that? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, Pratmesh, if I go back when I started doing this, when I probably just did 10 applications,
mhm.
yeah, I would try to draw a parallel, from those 10 applications, probably I was building the Frankenstein, right? But when you do 1,000 applications, at that very moment, I mean, in this entire journey, I'll go step by step. Or when you, let's say, do 100, right? The first 100, when you do, at that very moment, you tend to know that now there's no way I can repeat stuff, right? There's no damn way. I mean, I have repeated stuff with creativity, but that creativity, I have exhausted the creativity, right, of using the same thing and building over it. And that's when then what you really see is that how is this guy, how the 101st guy is actually different from the first 100 guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Add
Right.
on
And
to
when you
that.
do 1,000, by that time, you figured out that every applicant is unique. All you
Mhm.
do is hold their hand, listen to their story, navigate them. They have everything with them. It's just that, like you said, you don't know, you have haystack of content, right? But it's about finding a needle in it, right? And that needle should be just unique to you. And
Yeah.
Prathamesh, that just comes by exposure and working with people.
Yeah. Just a follow-up question on this, Shantan, would be like, how do you gauge whether this kind of story will help me build a strong narrative? For instance, let's say I read someone's application who has got a successful admit, and he or she is an excellent, again, a sports athlete who has gone to achieve maybe national, international level, right? At the same time, let's say I, as a candidate, I have also played the same sport, but maybe not at a national level, maybe at a district or zonal levels, right? How do I know my story, even though I also get inspired by the same sports? How do I make sure my story actually has that kind of weightage? Does the outcome look that in that way, that maybe he's national, international level player, so maybe there is more
Got your point. I
credibility?
got your point. I got your
Yeah.
point.
So how do you?
Yeah, I think indeed, when we are saying that I've played the sport, if you can throw some supporting evidence that I won that, I won this, right? Indeed helps. I think that was your question earlier. Should we put an impact, right, Prathamesh? Or probably someone else's, right?
Yeah.
Indeed, adding that helps. But what matters more, it's not about the competition of who has won a bigger award. It is not that. It is about how are you really expressing yourself. And in your expression, how this particular thing ties up to what you are saying. And what is unique to every applicant is their sense of expression, is the way they express.
Yeah,
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you, Shantanu. Thanks, Paridhi.
thanks. So I will also, I want to say something over here because I know a lot of questions, like a lot of times these are the questions where there's no structured answer, to be honest over here, because like Shantanu has worked with thousands of applicants and every time making sure that, every candidate is unique, making sure that we have 100% interview invite, all of that. It is extremely essential to let go of your biases. Now I'm talking from applicants' point of view. When you guys are reading samples, you will develop a bias and it's natural. What Prathamesh is saying, it is going to happen to all of you. And you probably are, coerced to write an example which is very similar to something that has worked in the past. But it won't work now because they've read a similar narrative. It will look like a copy of somebody else that you're trying to be, which you're not. And that's when you start losing your authenticity. So one of the first exercises that we do, when candidates come on board, is to remove your biases. We have to collect a lot of inputs from your friends and family as well to try and understand who you really are as a person from a 360-degree perspective, from people who really know you in and out and can be brutally honest about you. One, it breaks, your idea of your strengths and weaknesses, and it also breaks the idea of how you're trying to position yourself. So you can always come back to reality and, go back to the roots. Okay, this is who I really am. Second, even though we've got samples, hundreds of samples out there on the portal, candidates keep asking for sample after sample. One thing that Shantanu really, asks you to do, instead of reading through those samples, go deeper within yourself and then introspect with Shantanu just to brainstorm, because you can't read all those samples. Even if you read all those samples, let's say you read 50 samples, you will try to emulate one of those.
Yeah, yeah. Pardeep, this is a
Somebody.
very strong point you mentioned. Yeah, but go ahead. I'll add to it later.
Yeah, yeah, and it's someone who has done various, permutations and combinations of personalities and tried to see like what has worked in the past and what has not worked, so that the uniqueness sometimes can be very personal. It can be a trait, it can be a turning point in your life, it could be anything, but that story should not have been told in the past, and that is something you will never have eyes into. How will you know that?
Indeed. I mean, so it's also the way of working, right? I'm coming back to expression. So if I would share samples with applicants, first of all, they would see like, oh, what this is. I don't think I can write it this way, right? Obviously, the sample that I'm sharing is not the first draft, right? It's probably the seventh, eighth, like I don't know, in many cases, 10th draft, right? So there's no point of sharing that and then asking you to think about it, right? You first of all get you're really confused. Would I be even closer to this, right? First thing. Second thing, then what you do is you start emulating it, right? You're like, this guy, for instance, we talked about sports. So now the conversation is moving in the direction of sports, right? So this is exactly where, and then if I ask applicants, guys, just write without anything, then they're like, I don't know what to write, you know? And that is where I started sharing sample in the beginning, but now I don't do that, right? So what we do is I just help them, I ask them questions. I get that thing out of them. I flow with them, you know, and then I would tell them, okay, now go ahead and write. So we talked about these 5 things. You write about these 2, right? Go and write, express yourself. This is exactly where your uniqueness, your rawness, what I'm really looking for is your rawness. And once I have that in the direction that I want, then it can be spun in any way, you know, in whatever direction you want, you can spin it. But again, eventually the direction also matters. And what's the narrative? What's the overall narrative that you have in your mind? You got to spin in that direction. So yeah, I think sharing sample in the beginning now is we've stopped doing it.
Yeah. So my suggestion, even if you're working on your own or working with whoever you're working with, do not start out by reading samples to think about your stories. It's your story. Don't try to read a few samples. Okay, this is how I'm going to articulate. There are some raw questions that we all have to have clarity on when we're going for business schools. Write it down for yourself first. And then probably when just for references, how you're supposed to stitch them together, you can try to do that. But I mean, in these workshops, you already know there has to be a personal angle, there has to be a professional angle, there has to be a goal, there has to be a strength, a weakness, there has to be a connection between the personal and professional angle. So these kind of things you can already think through and document them somewhere, while have a third person or a second opinion of somebody who's nuanced enough, who knows what has worked and what has not worked. So Prathamesh, get that nuanced person to just give it a look and give you 2 cents. Because don't try to do it in your own bubble. Do it with someone who's made it through, someone who's already there, maybe a student, maybe an alum. But also make sure that that person has given multiple essays a read, has understood that what adcoms have picked up this year. Because like Shantanu talks about it in a couple of sessions, this session we are not talking about it. You also have to know what is the flavor of the year at the schools that you're targeting. And if you are not aware of that you might just miss it by just a little bit, which something that has worked last year might not work this year. So you have to also be very aware of what schools are really looking at. For example, just sharing a stat over here, management consulting has been the most flagrant post MBA goal in the past, and it still is, and I know it remains. But do we understand what the McKinseys, BCGs, and Bains of the world are really doing? How much the recruitment has shrunk, and how much is it going to affect the career stats of the business schools? And all that the schools care about is their career stats. Do you even understand where the opportunities are really coming up right now? While of course the AI has happened, now what is happening? So you have to have the industry understanding and the understanding with respect to the opportunities, with respect to goals that you're going to put out there as well. So have somebody tell you all of that. Just don't do it in your own bubble, is just a little advice from my side. We've got a question on ESA, and then we'll pick up the next question. Leonardo is asking, I got contacted by the admissions manager at ESA. Do you think I still need to write my essays or they will allow me to skip some parts of the application process? I don't think that happens, Leonardo. So, like there is a marketing team at every business school out there. Yes, of course, they do reach out to a lot of candidates. They do give application fee waivers to a lot of candidates. A lot of candidates also mistake that, hey, I've got an application fee waiver. Probably I'll just get an admit. So I'm going to do the application on my own. And they end up with a rejection. You will still have to do the application. So that does not say, that definitely says that, okay, the school might be interested in your profile, but you still have to do the full application. All right, we'll pick up the ESA Essay 2. What would you like to, again, very different question, nothing to do with goals, interesting conversation.
It's a very long question.
What would you like to highlight about yourself or your journey, which may have not been captured in your application?
But they have changed the essay this year.
Okay.
Yeah, the second essay, I guess it's a fit essay now, and it's a very long essay. But what this says, why is ESA the right MBA program for you? What aspects of ESA's program values and community resonate most with your personal and professional goals? Please provide specific examples that illustrate why you believe ESA is the best fit for you. Your response should be personal, honest, and well researched. We encourage you to reflect on how you see yourself engaging with the ESA community and how the experience will support your long-term aspirations. And I only read half of the question, guys.
So they've added like what, 10 essays in one essay question?
Yeah, so it is so they want to understand whether you're the right fit, but they have actually given a lot of content over here that you can write about.
Okay.
The first essay is the goals essay, right? And the word limit is 450. Again, completely professional. This essay is where we now get the opportunity to talk about, the personal stuff. And previous year, previous intake, they had the goals essay was only 300 words long. And the second question, I guess, was this one, Paridi, that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But now they had given 450 words for the goals essay, and the fit essay is for 300 words. And we actually got to talk about the fit. By fit, we like how are you aligned with ESA, right? And by the way, they've also given some values: integrity, spirit of service, global mindset, and personal growth. They've given these values, and now they are saying how are you fit, right? So I mean, what we are doing, I mean, the essay that I have in front of me, the applicant has a shortlist, interview happened, we're waiting. Then 24th is the deadline, the last date, 24th November. So here, this is actually pretty beautiful. We started off with applicant's childhood, and it goes like, at 8, I couldn't raise my hand in class. Here I could perform on stage before 1,500 people without fear. And the performance was dance. And then go about saying dance and music became my first outlets of expression. Over time, I sought out exposure to face fears, developing a growth mindset. You see how growth came in. And then we talked about how then this person during the college did some wonders, went out of the comfort zone, and actually did summer school. And then here we bring in the global setting as a value, right? And then talked about that how again, the same thing of growing, same thing of facing fears, and then growing. Talked about how the applicant competed with peers and entered spaces once terrified. Once the applicant was terrified. For example, case competitions, public speaking, and then eventually securing funding for one of the initiatives applicant was a part of. And then also talking about how applicant has helped underprivileged women build businesses, and and then injecting these values. And I understand I've talked a lot until now, but guys, this is only 151 words because the overall essay only has 300 words, right? So we have to wrap it up in 150 words, showcasing all the values, and then moving to how the applicant would contribute. And then there are a bunch of contributions over here. This applicant is a consultant, one of the firm, like one of the MBBs. And then we showcase that how the individual things that the applicant would do in order to add value to ESA. We also talk about that applicant going to build a case book, a living case book, where she would put in student created case studies, student teams project, hackathon winners, local entrepreneurial stories, all compiled into a case book, which ESA can use as a signature resource. So yeah, and then we end pretty well. We say, just as dance once gave me the courage to stand at the center of a stage, I now seek to bring that fearless energy to ESA.
Interesting. So basically, what I'm gathering, the first half has to talk about the values, value matching with the with ESA values that they've clearly listed. So we have to bring out anecdotes and examples from our personal and professional lives to match that. And the second half talks about the contribution in this essay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, but is it a structure that you would recommend, or it can be, I mean, it could be something else also, like a personal narrative comes in and then value, but is it something, because since it's a new essay and we, of course, are
Yeah.
only trying it this year and we've received
Yeah.
review invites, did you follow the same approach for all the candidates for the structure, or this
Not
is one
really.
such
Not,
example?
yeah, not really. I didn't follow the same. This
Hmm.
applicant had so much of content, first of all, so much of content.
Hmm.
Um, and I wanted to tell all that to the adcom. And because I wanted to tell all that to the adcom, then now it's difficult to move from one to other to another, and then to the fourth or fifth one. So I decided I'm going to weave it into a story, which starts from childhood until what the applicant is doing now, and in this journey, gonna put in the values.
Got it.
There are
And
few applicants where they not everyone has so much of content,
yeah,
right? So we would pick two, and then
interesting.
yeah, and have it expanded, and then the storytelling would be in a different way depending on what two things have been picked.
Yeah. So there are four values, of course, that ESA has listed. I just have a question, of course, from candidates' point of view. Is it important that we have examples to support all four values? Or we could, if I feel that I'm not matching at least one of the values over there, is it okay to miss that? What do you recommend?
Yeah, I had a word with the associate director of ESA around that, because it is impossible to throw four
All,
anecdotes in three
yeah,
rooms,
yeah.
right? Literally impossible. Um, so we are not throwing anecdotes, but still we are throwing bit supporting evidence,
Okay. Hmm.
right? So it's not focused on that, hey, I achieved this, hence this is what it is, but it's more about you're telling a story, and while you're telling a story in between, you are saying that this is how this is my value, this is how this is my value, that is how this is my value. And
Yeah.
then the overall story is about, and you also don't have to talk about all the four values. Honestly, even if you pick two, it's fine.
Got it. Interesting. So you as a consultant, do you find it difficult because people do not have so much content. It's very explicitly asking, and there's no other essay question like that. Okay, we have these four values, and you have to match these four values. Do you find it difficult, for candidates to be able to really come to terms with the examples, and for you to dig into the examples of candidates to match the values?
I mean, I think touchwood, we've had brilliant candidates. Yeah, it's not just me who's doing it. The candidates are brilliant.
Yeah.
Really amazing. No,
Hmm.
no, all of them are very brilliant, amazing. All of them had a lot of stuff to talk about.
All right. Thanks, Shantanu. Any questions around the fit question for ESA, please? Any questions, feel free to drop them here. We still have a few
Shreya
minutes.
has an interesting question.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Yeah,
be taking-
Shreya, you are bang on target. That's what I decided to do, and this is exactly why I wrote to the associate director on this. That I think the contribution can come in over here, and then in the goals I say we don't talk about contribution. We talk about how can we really leverage ESA. Um, but again, there's for one of the applicants, what I did was I did inject contribution over there, and then because that applicant had too much stuff to contribute, so did include a little bit over there in the goals essay, and then whatever was aligned with the values included in the fit essay.
Okay. Interesting. All right. If there are no more questions, I think we're good, but we'll wait for another minute for you guys to ask your questions if there are any. You can also unmute yourself if you want to. Okay, so Shreya is saying, so keep the goals and
And
separate, right?
you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, okay. Also, so I know some of you are targeting Jan 27 intake, but for the ones who are targeting September 26 intake, and if you have more than 5 schools on your list, We are closing the enrollment on 15th of November because we do need 1.5 months at least. We won't be able to do justice to your essays. But if you're going for Jan 27 intake, and if you're sure that you want to work with Shantanu, feel free to come on board because we've already started onboarding for Jan 27 intake and some people have already kicked off their journey. So just letting you know. Any questions? Yeah, any questions?
Nope.
Anything else outside of the essay? So there's this news, guys. I don't know if you've been following, Shantanu, you can update them. So Trump has done
Oh,
it.
yeah, no,
And
go ahead.
yeah, I mean, they're becoming, I mean, they can't do without international people in the US. So I think the news is going to flip around in the next few weeks, and it has already started to soothe a little, and people have started to think about US schools again. So yeah, I hope you're all updated on that. If you're doing US schools as well, you're welcome to have a chat and discuss which schools you really should be targeting.
I think the politics in US has become extremely interesting, where the government was shut down. They were having and for Epstein's file, they needed one more vote, and Republicans were saying that we can't swear in the new Democrat in because the government is shut down. So and the government is open. The first thing they did was swear her in, and then she signed the petition, and now they're going to have a vote on releasing Epstein files. I think the Democrats, which is the opposition, has some leeway in pressing Trump, in terms of doing. I mean, in terms of taking back a few things. I'm not saying he's going to take back the H-1B thing. I'm not saying that. All I'm trying to say is it's going to be an interesting week, guys. So keep an eye on the news.
Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
MBA and Beyond team, please, when you put this on YouTube, please take off the last part that we are
Yeah,
discussing.
take off the last part.
So, and I
Yeah.
think like after every session, we can have 5 minutes of the parts that we can take off,
Uh,
and then, okay, guys, you can go ahead and apply, and upload anything that you have to. All right.
Right,
I think,
everyone.
yes, one important note, and I forgot to mention that we are postponing tomorrow's session. Tomorrow, I think we had Fuqua, Tuck, and Darden. I'm mistaken. Yeah, but let me just quickly pull off. We are doing it next Thursday. So those who are targeting US schools, I'm just dropping the link over here for you guys. Yeah, Tuck, Yale, and NYU Stern. Sorry, my bad. So we are doing the session on November 20th instead of tomorrow, because then otherwise it would have been 2 sessions in the week. It would have been too much for us. So we are dropping it here. If you're interested, you can register for this session as well. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone. Have a
Thanks,
great day ahead.
Shrishti. Thanks,
Bye.
Prathamesh. Thank you, everyone.